We are back. Time for another edition of Carolina Insider Live. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. My name is Jones Angell, sitting next to, of course, as always, Adam Lucas. And Adam, we've got a good show today, man. We are jam-packed today.
I've been looking forward to this one. It's not like the other ones where I wasn't sure. This one I'm actually looking forward to.
We have a big BMW social drive coming up later in the show, a terrific guest that Adam is going to introduce in just a second, and a reminder that it's all brought to you by Wells Fargo. When our communities needed us, Wells Fargo was there to help. And Adam, Carolina football is creeping a little bit closer, just about 6 weeks or so away from what we hope is the start of the season. And we have a terrific guest to talk about Carolina football and some other stuff today.
Saw a tweet from the Rams Club that I think opening day for Carolina football is about 100 days away. That seems somewhat close enough to get excited. And we're excited to have Patrice Rene. He's one of the most fun players to watch on the Carolina football team, especially in that defensive backfield. Really excited that he's going to be back on the field this fall. Patrice, thanks so much for giving us some time today. How you feeling?
Good. Thank you guys for having me today.
All right, we have a lot to talk about. Let's go back to last year first. It's that Miami game. The knee injury happens. What's going through your mind at that point? I have to imagine that was difficult.
Yeah, most definitely. It was definitely difficult. Going into my senior year, high expectations. Coach Brown coming back, our first season as a new team. Doing great things, winning the first game against South Carolina and coming to Miami. So, it was a lot of excitement, and to have it, cut short for me early on at that point. It was very, very hard and, a little difficult to deal with, but things happen for a reason. Learn to adapt and deal with it, and made the best of the situation.
Where do you stand in your rehab right now, Patrice? What are you doing right now, and what's your timeline?
So I'm in the back end of my rehab. So usually for ACL tear, the rehab process takes about 9 months. So I'm in that 9 months. So by the end of this month, about I think June 27th, will be when I'll see the doctor again to evaluate and kind of get fully cleared. So like I said, I'm in the back end of it, doing well. Everything's gone according to plan. Was able to, stick to the plan and, keep the course. And I'm feeling very well, very good. I'm excited to get back to it.
What's that process been like? A 9-month rehab is not a short rehab. The ACL is widely regarded as one of the more painful injuries right when it happens as well.
Yeah.
What's this process been like for you?
It's a little grueling. Honestly, the first couple of months are the hardest ones when, you're not really mobile. You can't really move that much. You're not really dependent. You have to depend on others, roommates, friends to help you out, get around, move around, crutches. So the first 2 to 3 months are really the hard months. But once you get past that bump and you're able to move again and you start, getting into the process and getting to the groove of things, that's when you get the ball rolling. And for me, it was just a mindset. I understood what happened and I accepted it, and I decided I won't, sulk. I won't be sad about it. I won't, be depressed about it. I'm just going to attack it and attack the rehab process. So with that mindset, for me, it was kind of pretty easy to keep pushing, stay motivated each and every day, going into rehab 4 or 5 hours a day, and, making sure I'm getting back right.
You've had to deal with a lot of position coach changes during your time at Carolina, and there was a little bit of skepticism when Dray was hired to coach the defensive backs. He had never coached at this level. What do you like about him as a teacher, and what do you feel like you've learned from him?
Coach Bly, he's a special man. He's a special character. And the funny thing about Coach Bly is he's always been around my whole career since I was a freshman. Since I first stepped foot into college, he was always on the sidelines, watching the games, giving us pointers, tips and advice. So I knew him before that. And once I heard he was getting hired, I was just excited because I call him my OG. He's one of the guys that's been there, done that, and he's a guy that I look up to and have a lot of respect for. And he also holds a lot of respect in the world of college sports because, he's the GOAT. He's done incredible things. So once we heard he was getting hired, I was all excited. And I know Coach Brown, he's a smart man. He wouldn't hire anybody that he doesn't think can get the job done. And I think that Coach Bly has all the qualifications to be a great coach, and he's proven it, teaching us each and every day. We're learning from him, teaching us about technique, schematics. So he's a great, fun guy to be around, always has great energy, positive energy. You want to be around him, you want to learn, and he just makes the game fun. And, to have Coach Bly in our corner as having my coach is really a blessing.
Is there anyone on the current team who is as good at talking trash as Dray?
I don't know. I don't know. See, that's a good question. I don't know. He still thinks he has it. Funny story, like in the spring when he first got here, he raced two of our GAs, Jeff Schottmer and Quinshaw David, and he beat both of them. So, I mean, he talks his talk, but he backs it up every time, whether we're shooting hoops, or doing anything. He's always ready to compete, trash talking. But, I mean, it's fun. It's part of the environment that he brings, and it's great.
Patrice, I want to go back a little bit. I don't know if people know this story or not, but you originally are from Canada, but went to high school in Virginia, and that was a big move for you. Can you take us back to the decision to leave Canada, go to Virginia for high school?
Yeah, very big decision. Long story short, really, it was just being in Canada. Unfortunately, football isn't that big. We're a big hockey country. That's the main sport that we play over there. So football kind of took the back seat, and for me, I started playing when I was 6 and I fell in love with the game, but unfortunately it was kind of hard to kind of progress. And I knew growing up, I was to always watch college football every Saturday with my dad and my brothers. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I wanted to be. That was my dream, is to play college football and eventually go to the pros. So me and my mentor back home named Victor Tadano, he kind of took me under his wing. And we sat down and he was like, is this what we really want to do? This is the plan we'll have to execute, and you're going to have to follow through with it, work hard each and every day, and then you'll be able to achieve it. So I spent countless hours, 5 days a week training, and then going to camps all around, the U.S. So every weekend we would get on a van, pack it up, about 4 or 5 guys, and go to different camps, hit different camps so I could get my name out there. So after doing the little camp circuit, I kind of created a buzz for myself, and everybody was like, who's this Canadian kid showing up to camps, balling out and, strapping top receivers, big recruits, big name guys are like, who is this Canadian kid? And I kind of created a buzz for myself, and a lot of coaches were interested, and they'd come out to Canada and see me, and they would see the competition level and be like, oh, well, he's dominating, but can he really play against, better competition? So after my sophomore year of high school in Canada, I sat down with my family, my coach, my mentor, and we decided that, to have a better chance to getting an offer or receiving a D1 scholarship, I'd have to transfer to a school in America to kind of play there and, show my talent. And thankfully enough, I encountered my high school coach, Coach Valgueres from Episcopal High School in Virginia. And it's a boarding school there. And they had a pretty good setup in terms of academics and athletics. And it was a great balance. And I was able to get a scholarship to attend the school as well. So it was a perfect opportunity, and I really couldn't refuse it. My parents are all for it, and I'm thankful for them because they're very supportive of me and my dreams. And they were like, all right, well, if this is what you really want to do, then we'll back you up. So packed all my things junior year, decided to go to boarding school. And then once I got there, started playing, went to school there, and the rest was history.
What kind of response does young Canadian Patrice get when he tells all his friends, hey, I want to be a football player? And also, do you think you could have been a good hockey player if you had devoted everything to that?
So first, when I told my friends, they always knew I played, and they're like, they knew I was pretty good. So thankfully enough, they're always supportive of it. They're like, man, if this is what you want to do, I think you could do it. You should go for it. Always chase your dreams. So I always been surrounded with people that have been supportive of me. But in terms of hockey, I do play a little bit of hockey. Growing up, obviously, every Canadian, I think, grows up with a hockey stick in their hand at one point. So, I've been on the ice. I'm decent. I got to work on my back skating a little bit. But I think if I put all the time and effort as I did as much as football and hockey, I probably would have been pretty good, honestly. Not going to lie.
See that DB back pedal and the back skating, it's very similar to each other.
It's a little similar, but a little bit more balance. And if you fall, it kind of hurts a lot more,
So do you consider yourself more Canadian or American at this point?
Definitely Canadian, because at the end of the day, that's home, and I'll never go away from it, and I love home. But I've been living in America for the past 6-7 years now, so definitely have a bit of mix of cultures where I've learned a lot from America, but still having, my Canadian roots. That's something I won't be able to escape. And, I'm very proud to be Canadian and out here doing my thing. So I'm definitely still a Canadian boy at heart.
You had kind of a tricky situation to navigate these last few months when the borders closed. You were at home in Canada, but you wanted to come back to Chapel Hill to rehab. How did you handle finagling all that?
Yeah, it was a tricky situation, like you said, very tough, weird process. Unprecedented times where whole country shut down, and the whole world's really shutting down, and I had to go back home because I wanted, in a pandemic, I needed to be back home with my family, so that's where I felt safe at. So I was there at home for a while, and then rehabbing through Zoom online with my trainers and stuff. And then Canada announced that the country was completely shutting down for, I think, the foreseeable 3 months. So that meant I wouldn't be able to, access any facilities, doctors, or, physio, rehab, anything for 3 months. And that's a big chunk of my rehab process. So I was like, man, like I got to figure out a way to go back to Chapel Hill so I could, continue my process and not fall behind. And all that, I had to go to the embassy, talk to the Canadian embassy. They were pretty understanding because I was leaving the country, so they weren't really too worried. But I had to talk to the American embassy and let them, try to, give them idea to accept me back in the country. So came up with the plan, told them my situation, said I was an athlete here at Carolina, got surgery, needed to rehab. Also, I'm paying rent at an apartment that's very expensive and it's empty right now. And nobody's living in it. So, it'd be great if you guys were able to let me back into the country so I could continue with my rehab process and live at home. And, thankfully enough, I had everything I needed and they understood and, they made it happen. So it was good.
Patrice, there have been so many individual stories of how COVID-19 has affected people. And of course, you talked some about yours right there, just trying to get back into the country. But unfortunately, your family suffered a tragedy during this time as well. Take us through the loss of your uncle and how that's affected you and your family.
Yeah, so that was a little bit early on when the pandemic had first hit. My uncle, he lives in New York, and, New York was one of the areas that's been, highly impacted by the virus and, with high rates of, people testing positive for it. So my uncle, he ended up, he was sick for a little bit, but they didn't really tell anybody at first, but he just said, he didn't really feel well. And then it was to the point where he's a very strong man and very stubborn guy, my uncle. He likes to do things his way and, kind of take, ownership of himself. And he was really, reluctant in trying to, express that he wasn't feeling well, and to the point where he couldn't really keep going like that, and told, his wife and my aunt and his kids that he wasn't feeling well. He had to go to the hospital. And once he got there, they did the test and realized that he did in fact have COVID, and he was battling it for a couple of days, but unfortunately wasn't able to make it. And for us as a family, it was really hard because we're really close, and family means the world to me. And the hardest thing really was not being able to physically be there for my cousins and my aunt, having them taking care of that whole situation by themselves and nobody really being able to, provide physical support and being there and helping them and holding them and, being a shoulder for them. So that was kind of hard for us, but we're very a faithful family and a spiritual family, and we prayed a lot and made sure, we send in our blessings and our thoughts with them, and, just did everything we could to help them out. But it was definitely a hard situation for us, just like many people in the world are affected by this awful pandemic, and just have to find a way to deal with it and, take it as it is and, just keep it going.
As you said, many people have been affected, but if you haven't been affected, it's hard to understand some of the things you're talking about. How has your personal contact changed the way that you've viewed everything that the country's been going through for the last 3 or 4 months with this virus situation?
Yeah, like many people at first, I was a little skeptical of it, just hearing this virus coming in, shutting everything down. We were in the middle of spring break while it happened, and they announced that classes were going to be canceled and pushed back. So everybody was excited about that. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, sweet. But once you realize that it's the severity of it and how serious it is, and then for me, once it actually hit home and personal, I was like, wow, like this is something that's serious and that people should actually take seriously. And from that point on, that's when I started talking to my friends about social distancing and making sure, people were actually taking the right precautions and steps, because it is important. And you don't really want to, even as a younger person, and my peers were young, even though it won't affect us directly and we might not feel it, but for our grandparents, for our parents, for, our uncles and aunts, like people that are older than us and people that are at higher risk, it's important to be conscious about that and, take the right precautions to make sure to keep everybody around you safe. So it's definitely a serious thing that's happening. And, we just got to make sure we're taking everything right so we can get past it.
A lot of serious things going on in America right now. And you had a tweet, I think it was last week, we actually talked about it on here last week, where you talked about the way Coach Brown has handled some of the discussions that have been going on in America these last couple weeks. What do you like about the way Coach Brown has handled that, and how do you think that's helped your team and you have better discussions about some tough issues to talk about?
Yeah, I think the most important thing about the whole situation is, Coach Brown being willing to talk about it. Coach Brown is a very genuine guy, and that's one thing I really appreciate about him. Since the day I met him, he's been very genuine and real with all of us, with all of his players. And this is not the first time we've talked about things like that or have had tough discussions. In the past, we've had symposiums, we've had meetings. He's had people come in and talk to us and, talk about the issues that are going on in this world. And, I feel like for him and his platform and, the type of person he is and all the the greatness that he has to be able to willing to have those talks with his players, to be able to listen to us. I think that's very important. And, he wants to learn. You can tell that he understands us and he understands how we feel. And he wants us, he wants to help and he wants to make a difference. And I feel like by him, having those talks with us and kind of understanding our perspective as players and as young Black men in America right now, it's very important. And he takes that information and makes sure he passes it around and, tells his peers and the people in his world. And he's really using his platform to try to make a change. And I think that's very, very important. I appreciate Coach Brown for that, to actually be willing, because a lot of times people, the main point is people are scared to have those conversations. And I think without the conversations, change can't come and it won't happen. So it's important that it's a good thing that people are talking about it and it's in front of people's faces because they can't escape it. It's there. You have to deal with it and you have to address it. And therefore, you have to make a change from that. So him doing that with us and, just continuing to talk about us and, having that line of conversation, I think is very good and very beneficial for the cause.
Patrice, let's change gears here a little bit, talk a little football. There's a lot of buzz around Carolina football right now. What's the feeling within the team, amongst the players, what you guys are able to do here coming up in 2020?
We're excited we just talked about all the stuff that's going on, but we're just recently starting to get a little bit of good news with guys coming back on campus. We're actually starting to bring the first wave of guys tomorrow for a check-in to kind of start get the process rolling, to kind of get reinstated into, football activities and stuff. But for the team, we're really excited, man. I mean, we've been away from the game for months now, and we're just ready to go and ready to get back to work. We've had a really pretty good, successful season, but Coach Brown, he tells us to not really look at that. That's happened. That's in the past. We had the season. It's now to look forward to the future. We have bigger, better goals for ourselves as a team, and we're trying to achieve them. So we're just all excited, ready to get back to work with Coach Hess and the staff and, get back to doing what we do and so we could get ready for the season. But very excited for sure.
Patrice, I don't know if you could see it, but the B-roll just showed you doing a little pre-practice dance. Joe does that same dance before we go on air each week.
Patrice taught me that dance.
Yeah, it's not quite as cool when he does it. As Joan said, there's a lot of buzz. We know about the Sam Howells and the De'Ami Browns and the Patrice Renes. Give us the inside scoop and tell us somebody we should keep an eye on so that when we're watching the Tar Heels in September, we can say, I remember when Patrice told us we should keep an eye on that guy.
Okay, we have a lot of guys. One that stands out first off is Josh Downs, a young receiver, slot receiver coming in. He's bringing a lot of excitement, had a really good high school career, so I'm excited to see what he does. We have a lot of guys on the defensive line. We're going to have a fresh, young defensive line. Of course, losing guys like Aaron Crawford, Jason Strobridge definitely hurts us, but, replacing them with guys like Miles Murphy, it's going to be exciting to see what they do and what they bring to the game. So I'm definitely excited for Josh Downs, Miles Murphy, and a couple other young guys to kind of see what they have and prove themselves.
All right, last thing, Patrice, that defensive backfield room has suddenly got a lot more crowded, both with some freshmen that will be coming in, some transfers who will be eligible this year. What is your role in that defensive backfield room? How do you try to lead it as one of the older guys?
Just make sure I keep leading the guys. And having the transfers come in, having Bryce and Kyler, it's very exciting. It just brings a lot more competition to the DB room. I think we're one of the deepest positions on the team, honestly, with the most talent. And I feel like, everybody could play. So that means that brings a lot more, competition, excitement to it. When we go to practice, we're all out there competing and making sure, you're doing the right thing because the next guy is just trying to get on the field as well. So it brings a lot of fun to it. But as a leader, just making sure we're all doing the right things, keeping my guys accountable, and just making sure I can help the team out the best way possible and make sure we're holding our part of the bargain. The rest of the guys are depending on us to hold it down in the back end of things. So the guys up front can do their job. So, we're excited, and I can't wait to, show you guys what we're ready to do.
Patrice, man, thank you so much for your time. Glad that you are on your way back, almost back. Glad you're healthy and doing well, and really look forward to seeing you back out on the field here soon.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
That's Patrice Rene joining us here on Carolina Insider Live. Man, Patrice Rene, he could sit here and do this show.
He could, but I can't play defensive back.
That's right. He's got something on both of us.
That got me excited about Carolina football. I wish it was closer. I'm ready to go right now.
All right, let's get to our BMW Social Drive. It is brought to you by the local BMW dealers here in North Carolina, providing legendary performance, exceptional offers. Now you can drive that car, Adam. Premium ownership experience. Test drive the ultimate driving machine today. Adam, let's start with Carolina football and some big news this week that one of the best ever to play at the wide receiver position for Carolina, Hakeem Nicks, is giving back to the program.
This was great to see because Hakeem Nicks is one of the very best receivers in Carolina football history. Gave a very generous donation to the Rams Club to name the wide receivers position room in his honor. He now is the second former Tar Heel to take this step with the Rams Club. The defensive backs room, which we just talked about with Patrice, is named for Denoris Searcy, who also gave a generous donation to the Rams Club. So great to see these former players want to be involved with the program. We've heard Mack Brown talk about that Carolina football family. Ken Mack and Brian Chacos on the Rams Club side doing a great job trying to make sure that everybody's involved, and it's paying off and benefiting the current players right now.
Hakeem Nicks, one of the best wide receivers ever to play at Carolina, you think?
I don't think you can have the discussion without Hakeem Nicks. There was a great Lee Pace story on GoHeels.com kind of running through some of his best catches. The behind the back catch is the signature, but there were dozens more.
Adam, let's stick with Carolina football, but unfortunately some extraordinarily tragic news as former Carolina defensive lineman Tommy Davis lost his life at just the age of 37. Tommy leaves behind a wife and a very young daughter. Just a tragic situation, Adam, and the Carolina football family trying to come together and help out the Davis family.
Matt Merletti has spearheaded the creation of a GoFundMe that's raising money for Tommy's wife and his daughter, who's just 9 months old, will grow up without really having much memory of her father. And Tommy Davis left behind so many great memories from the Carolina football family, both his teammates, but then also the players who were in the Merletti era who remember Tommy more for the GA role that he played when he came back and was around the program. A lot of great stories about how influential he was, how much he loved the game of football, and how much he loved Carolina football. So certainly we hope that if you're able and you're so inclined, we hope you'll help contribute to that because they've set a big goal of $50,000 for Tommy's family.
You see the website at the bottom of your screen now. If you are interested, every dollar helps. And if you're interested in helping out the Davis family, you can check out that GoFundMe. Again, that address at the bottom of your screen. Adam and I actually talked to Matt Merletti earlier today, and about halfway, almost $25,000 already raised for that $50,000 goal to help out Tommy's family. Well, Adam, no easy way to transition from that into anything else, but let's keep rolling here and we'll go to baseball and Major League Baseball draft going on, and exciting news for a Tar Heel, Aaron Sabato, as he was taken last night in the first round.
I think perhaps Aaron Sabato may go down as the owner of the most power in Carolina baseball history. Just incredible right-handed power. Got a lot of good buzz on the draft last night as possibly the best hitter to come out of this draft on the power side, and continues a great streak for Carolina baseball as the Diamond Heels now have 12 first-round picks since 2006. 5 first-round picks since 2017, and it looks like Sabato may be one of the very best of those. And I'm not sure we even got to see the full range of power in Chapel Hill. He hit 25 home runs in 83 games for the Tar Heels, but in the final 6 games of the 2020 season, which was canceled, he hit 6. So he hit 6 in the final 6. So there was more in the tank that we didn't quite get to see, and now we'll get to see it for the Minnesota Twins.
First round, 27th pick overall to the Twins. And when you can hit it like that, you're pretty confident up there at the plate, I think.
One of his best interviews this week on social media was someone asked him what he liked the most about stepping into the batter's box. And he said, "I like seeing the fear in the pitcher's eyes." Most of us don't get that response when we step in the batter's box, but Aaron Sabato does, and so now he'll most likely take that to the professional level.
All right, somebody who hit a lot of home runs, Aaron Sabato. Let's go to an anniversary of maybe the most famous home run in Carolina baseball history. Let's take a look.
Here's the 0-1 to Flack. High and deep into right field. Going back is Mathis at the wall. Chad Flack just sent Carolina to Omaha.
But that was 14 years ago that Chad Flack in the Super Regional round in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, hit that walk-off home run to send Carolina to the College World Series. Adam, that started a run for the Tar Heels of 2006, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 13 that the Heels went to the College World Series and really started that night in Tuscaloosa.
And you mentioned one of the biggest home runs in Carolina baseball history. We've talked about this before on the audio podcast. To me, that's one of the biggest moments in Carolina sports history that we've seen since we've been doing this, which is longer than we think it is. Just changed the entire momentum of the program, changed Carolina baseball forever. And don't forget, he had hit a go-ahead home run in the bottom of the 8th. Because of weird NCAA rules, Carolina was the home team, even though it was in Alabama. Chad hit a go-ahead home run in the bottom of the 8th off Tommy Hunter, who then went on to play a dozen years in the major leagues. His game-winning home run came off of David Robertson, who played another dozen years in the major leagues, has been on all-star teams, won World Series. So it's not like Chad Flack hit these home runs off of me. He was hitting them off of legitimate major league pitching and changed the course of Carolina baseball forever.
Adam could get a wiffle ball maybe halfway there. Not sure
It'd be nasty.
Adam, a couple more things. Neat on GoHeels.com. All spring long, there have been some Carolina-themed crossword puzzles. And whoa, check it out. The latest edition is a Carolina Insider podcast edition.
This clearly is the best of the Carolina crosswords, and we have linked it from the Carolina Pod Twitter. So if you don't want to have to search around the internet, just go to the Carolina Pod Twitter and you can find it from there. Hopefully a lot of fun to do. It was fun to put the clues together. And we don't think you have to be a member of the 100% Pod Club in order to get all these right, but it would sure help.
And there are some others that don't have anything to do with the Carolina Insider podcast that are just more Carolina related. They've been going out all spring long. You can find those, as Adam said, linked via Twitter. It's linked on the Go Heels Twitter. It's on GoHeels.com. All right, two more things, Adam. We're going to go to Carolina basketball to finish things up. And one of the very best to do it is hanging it up. Vince Carter, after more than 20 years in the NBA, announces his retirement.
What an incredible career for Vince Carter, who achieved pretty much everything in the game of basketball. Played on an Olympic team, went to Final Fours, of course, at Carolina, and had an incredibly successful NBA career. And now, hopefully, perhaps maybe able to come catch a game at the Smith Center every once in a while, because he's been tied up for the last 22 seasons and hasn't been able to come back. So looking forward to seeing him around and hope he's able to enjoy some time off finally.
We received an email to CarolinaInsiderPod@gmail.com from podcast listener John Pearson, who said one of his favorite Vince Carter moments was actually maybe one that doesn't get talked about a whole lot here at Carolina.
It should, though. And we talked about this on the audio pod. This is the play on which I ripped my pants because I was so excited that Vince Carter had dunked on Tim Duncan. This was at the height of Duncan mania in the ACC. And as you see, Vince Carter just takes the ball right at him, goes past about half of the Wake Forest defense. He also drew a foul on this play, so it turned into a three-point play. But that's one of the best in-game Carolina dunks in Carolina basketball history.
Two-handed dunk at that, too. Incredible. And finally, Adam, one more piece of Carolina basketball-related news. Michael Jordan's been in the news a bunch this spring and early summer, and MJ, again, he dominates just about everything he does, and so now he's trying to take his domination to the fishing side of things. He was part of the Big Rock tournament in Morehead City, North Carolina, earlier this week.
It's good to see something good happen for Michael Jordan. I wasn't sure what he had been doing with himself since he left Chapel Hill, but it turns out he's been catching a 442-pound blue marlin on the very first day of the Big Rock. That tournament is not over, so there's still more fish to catch, perhaps. As you see his boat there, the Catch 23, aptly named. Carolina basketball's got some other ties to the Big Rock. A 1993 Tar Heel alum, Travis Stevenson, who was a part of the championship team, he won it in 2011, caught a 653-pound blue marlin to win that event in 2011. So MJ got a little ways to go to catch up with Travis Stevenson, as has so often been said.
All right, we will be back next week in what is going to be our final edition of these early summer editions of Carolina Insider Live. We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. We're going to take a pause, come back when we start getting closer to the season, but we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave a comment on however you're watching, on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever it might be. You can send us an email at CarolinaInsiderPod@gmail.com. Give us your thoughts on the show, and if it's something that you would like to see continue as we move through this upcoming Carolina campaign. But for today, we will say see you later, Big Grits, and see you next time on Carolina Insider Live.